What's your dad's top 3 best albums? I ain't gonna lie, like, y'all finna be so cooked for this question, because it's just not my generation, bro. Like, I was born in, I listen to music, like, I listen to, like, not even, I listen to, like, kind of, like, his newer music. Like, I don't really listen to, like, his old stuff, but I'd say, like, his, like, top 1 album, I'll say, what's called, the newest Carter, I think it's Carter 5, or something like that. But yeah, that shit was hard, like, that shit was great. But,
So I see people all through the comments and stuff like that, like on a post that I seen this from, and they like it's like Hip Hop DX or something like that. It's one of them pages. You know, that's not the main source of this, like, but whatever. But they in the comments like, before he starts to rap, man, he need to listen to the Carter 1 and then listen to the Carter 2, and then somebody had to alert him like, yo, dude is already rapping. Like, I don't know what you talk about. Trash Mag is the main source. That's not where these comments is. It's like Hip Hop DX. And yeah, like I went to his page to get this picture, and like the music, it sounded like some little Uzi Vert inspired heavy auto-tune stuff. And we'll get to all of that and the influences in a moment. But I got a few things to say about this, and I need y'all to have an understanding. For the people who don't have an understanding, especially the older heads, I'm definitely an older head. Like, I'm pushing. I ain't even gonna say that. I'm in my mid-30s. But listen, bro. Lil Yachty came in the game. I want you to notice, like, okay, so Lil Yachty came in the game. And within his first year of being in the game, this is during the first year, he was on a tour bus, and niggas on the tour bus was slandering Tupac. It wasn't Lil Yachty himself. It was niggas on the bus talking about some, man, don't nobody want to hear no Tupac. Turn that shit off, man. Ain't nobody fucking with no Tupac. XYZ, XYZ. So that's what was going on. Now, again, I'm in my mid-30s. So when I was a child, when I was a kid, there were people who would literally fist fight you over a negative opinion about Tupac, as far as grown individuals, people who were in their teens, people who were in their 20s, possibly even some people in their early 30s. Like that East Coast, West Coast stuff, you didn't even have to live there. But the way people love Pac, I'm not even talking about people in LA. I'm talking about, bruh, you could go to fucking Chattanooga. Like, motherfuckers really love Pac so much that they would fist fight you over a negative opinion about him. You couldn't say nothing bad about Pac in front of some people. Now, let me take it a step further. You couldn't say anything bad about him as a rapper in the media and stuff like that, especially like after a certain point. It just had to be all positive. That's one of the first, outside of like the whole Vlad TV wave and stuff, like that's one of the first like widespread negative things that I seen said about Pac since his death, especially by somebody who was not involved in the East Coast, West Coast beef. But Lil Yachty has a bubbling career today. That didn't hinder his career, especially because he didn't say the shit. But you know how old people is, like they'll just get on him just because it was said in his presence. So the point of me mentioning that, we have a whole generation that worship Tupac, right? In the 90s. We make it to the 2010s and the kids don't respect that legacy and they don't listen to that music. They don't respect it. They don't listen to it. Lil Yachty is 27 now. I need you to understand that. So when we go and we look at this guy, this kid, I don't know if you knew, Lil Wayne's son is 15. He's a teenager, bruh. He is not even an adult yet. He is a teenager. I have no, bruh, we've all been teenagers, bruh. Y'all know when we was teenagers, especially if you're in my age bracket, your mid-30s, bruh, you know how we was following all the hottest trends. I think kids are the most susceptible people on the planet to influence. Like, when it comes down to it, like, if a new trend comes into place, there's going to be more teens, as far as like a fashion trend, to go with that fashion trend immediately than people in their mid-20s I'll say early 20s, they'll do it just as much as the kids in high school. But mid 20s, it's good. You're going to begin to see a drop off. Late 20s, you'll begin to see another drop off. 30s and up, you're going to see tremendous drop offs. We're not really trying to follow trend, like all the trends, but like in school, everybody wants to fit in. Everybody wants to be trendy. Everybody wants to be cool. When I say everybody, I'm talking about the majority, not literally everybody, because you did have nerds who wasn't into none of that shit. You had a whole bunch of people who wasn't into none of that shit. But listen, that's how kids are. So when you look at, okay, there was a whole generation that loved Tupac, and Tupac was the greatest rapper of all time to a lot of people. When you get to Lil Yachty's age bracket, they were not outside for the Tupac era. They were not listening to music or into music during the Tupac era. Even when they got into music, it was over 10 years past Tupac's death. Tupac was not hot when they got into music. And this is the main thing. Tupac was not trendy when they got into music. When you got into Tupac, Tupac was trendy. If you were 40 something, when you got into Tupac, Tupac was the hot shit outside. When Lil Yachty got into music, more than likely people like Young Jock, Lil Wayne, et cetera, those were the hot niggas. So that's who he got introduced to. And somewhere within that age bracket is going to be the people he considered GOATs, or some rapper within that time frame. More than likely is going to be Wayne. So when we look at a 15-year-old, we are in 2024. That would mean that he is born in 2009, if my math is correct. When was Wayne's prime? Wayne's prime would be from 06, somewhere around the Carter 2, to somewhere the latest 2012-13. The latest 2012-13. I would say something like 2011, 10, honestly. Like when Drake and Nicki began, like after that Young Money like album, that's when the decline began to happen, in my opinion. And I'm talking about a decline in hotness, and some people would consider it a decline in like the music as well and stuff like that, whatever. But his son was not even really conscious or cognizant of anything during Wayne's best years. He was a baby. So he wasn't experiencing that. Now, he's a teenager right now. So he is in the phase where, okay, most people get into music somewhat because you might listen to your parents' music and stuff like that. You like it. But when you start wanting to get your own albums and stuff like that, I can say from my generation, that starts around 9, 10, 11, 12 at the latest. I think people typically get into music somewhere within that ballpark because it's not losing your virginity. It's just music. So when you look at that, when would he, like 2019 would be when he got into music. 2019, somewhere around when he's 10 and shit. Now, granted, he's Lil Wayne's son, but you also have to remember he is not really that into Wayne's music. From what you can see, he's not that into Wayne's music. And we'll get into some of that a little bit later. But when you are a person who is susceptible to influence and you're a teen and you're in this environment and you were going to house parties and they're playing certain music, I'll tell you something real quick. Before I get to what I'm going to tell you, you know, you're going to listen to a lot of the music that your peers are listening to, and you're going to be influenced by the music that you were listening to if you like it. It's that simple. So let me give you an example. When I was in high school, one of the hottest songs was Young Jock Is Going Down. I like that song, but what his follow-up single was I Know You See It. So you got this guy who has a hit, and then he has this next song that I was like, what the fuck is this? This sound like garbage. I didn't like it. So just note that. I personally didn't like it. Guess who liked it? Everybody else. Now, did I end up liking it because everybody else liked it? No. The way I ended up liking it is because it was forced on me through just experiences with other people. If I'm over somebody's crib and they got some babes there, whatever the case may be, that song is going to play. Can't get them to switch it because everybody else like it, right? So you just got to let it rock. You got to vibe with it. You go on MySpace. You trying to find chicks to message. You trying to add people. You just trying to see what people got on their page. You trying to see people top 8 and shit. Guess what? Every time you go on a page, people have a song that they select play. Around the time it was Pretty Ricky and all types of shit. But once that song dropped, that was on everybody's MySpace. And what I would do is rush to push the pause button. So you hear, meeny, miny, mo. How many bitches in the club want to go? I know you see it soon as the page load up. I got to go and stop it. But this is what got me right here. You would hear it at like pep rallies. You would hear it in people's cars after games. You would hear it at fucking house parties and shit like that. And when you're in an environment and people are having fun to this and you don't want to be the odd man out and you was having fun before this song came on, it's only going to be on for 3 minutes. You going to keep having fun. Over time, I got accustomed to the song and I began to like it. Now, if you look at that, I am not a person who is easy to influence. But it took so much conditioning. It took so much of the environment pushing this on me for me to begin to like this song that I fucking hated when I first heard it. Most kids, the average kid is not going to have that much resistance to something that everybody else likes. Now, when we look at the year 2019, who are some of the hottest rappers out of that year? Well, Juice WRLD is still alive, so Juice WRLD is one of the hottest rappers. Can't remember if XXX was alive. He would be one of the hottest rappers. Kodak is one of the hottest rappers. NBA YoungBoy is one of the hottest rappers. Lil Tecca was one of the hottest rappers. Old Town Road was out that year, so Lil Nas X was one of the hottest rappers, etc., etc. Roddy Ricch. So what do you have during that Lil Uzi? You have a lot of rappers who are singing and using auto-tune that is somewhat of the standard. Now, you might have a J. Cole and the Baby who not really singing. But when it comes down to it, that's the standard and stuff like that. That's what people are listening to. That's some of the hottest music out. So that's what more than likely one of those artists is more than likely going to be who he gravitates towards. Now, when I listen to his music, I mentioned it sounded like it was very influenced by Lil Uzi Vert, possibly even a little bit of Young Thug, maybe. There's a certain sound that if you were into like, some Maddox, like like just SoundCloud, underground, auto-tune, destroy lonely type shit, like some plug and B, if you know anything about that, like it's some of that type of feel as far as how he raps. Some of that Side Baby and stuff like that. So that's what you're getting out of him. Now, this is the funny thing about that. So let me break it down for you as far as how this works. So we already went over and we understand why he wouldn't be listening to his dad's music. I'll get into that in a moment, why he's not listening to his dad's music that much. But when you look at the people that I mentioned, NBA YoungBoy, Roddy Ricch, all these guys, right? All these new singing guys, right? Most of those guys are young. And who were they influenced by? They were influenced by either one of these two people, Future or Young Thug in most cases. Those are two of the most influential rappers when it comes to a lot of the YNs that you are seeing right now. Future and Young Thug have influenced these guys. Now, when you get past them, who influenced those guys? Future, you can probably debate about it, but when it comes to Young Thug, it is extremely obvious, being that he made the Barter 6. It's going to be Wayne. Wayne was a tremendous influence to Young Thug, and I guarantee you he was an influence to Future. So when it comes down to it, like he is influenced by people that were influenced by his dad. So the influence is there, but as far as the direct influence from his dad, that is not there. And I'm going to break this down for people who have never made music, don't know music, et cetera, et cetera. Like, the last thing that you want to do, especially as a successful musician, Lil Wayne is as successful as it gets. The last thing you want to do is force your music on somebody. The last thing you want is a musician that's pure. And especially if you actually have success, you don't want to feel like this guy, and it could be your family member, you don't want to feel like this guy gotta fuck with my music because, I made it and he my dog and no, you want niggas to actually like your music. You will still get upset if a nigga don't fuck with your shit, but you don't want to have to force it down their throat for them to fuck with it. Niggas want the support, but niggas don't. Regular niggas that make music or even successful niggas don't want to shove music down a family member's throat or they loved one's throat. Like, you either fuck with it or you don't. And even if you don't fuck with it, I would love if you support it. That's it. That's it. When we look at this cat, his son is his son. His son don't got nothing to do with this. They are blood, right? He gonna love his son regardless. We don't know if Lil Wayne be playing his music everywhere he go. We don't even know it, bro. Lil Wayne said he don't even listen to current music and shit like that. His son listens to current music. They're going to have different tastes and things like that. So when it comes down to it, I'm sure he doesn't want to force his music down his son's throat. But this is the other thing. If it's not, just because his dad is Wayne, let's pretend that he did force it down his throat. Just because he forced it down his throat, that don't mean that he's actually going to genuinely fuck with it, especially as much as he fucks with the music that didn't have to be shoved down his throat by a loved one. So at the end of the day, what he is doing is organic. The music is organic. And yeah, he might not know about his dad and stuff like that and all of that stuff, but you just got to understand, people in Lil Yachty's age bracket don't know shit about Tupac and Big. And that's just the way that the genre work, man. Even when you look at other genres of music and stuff like that, like, if somebody was growing up to like My Chemical Romances, they're going to be fucking with that. They're not going to be big on the Sex Pistols. Expecting somebody that is like, fucking 20, 30 years removed from that shit, like, and that wasn't outside during like the Sex Pistols and the Police and all that shit, like those rock bands, expecting them to be into that shit is ludicrous. And expecting them to be into that just because they make music is also ludicrous. But when we get to this rap shit and you look and it's like, but you're the son of a legend. You need to know this shit. You need to do the education. Like, listen, I used to be that way. I used to be on some KRS-One. Like, bro, you got to do this. Bro, I used to rap and I did the knowledge. But guess what? Most of the people around me, most of my peers didn't do the knowledge. A lot of niggas that actually made it in the game when I didn't do the knowledge because it's not necessary. It's not necessary for anything. The only thing it's necessary for is a respect of the game and the people that came before you. That's it. But with that, I'm done. Let me know your comments. I'm gone.